Greetings, maniacs, New Englanders, and everyone else. How are y'all doing? I hope this video finds you well, and I took a break in between filming questions 1 through 8 on Maine's ballot here in November. I only have to record question 3. I just record question 7. I only have to record question 3, but it's going to be an hour and a half of recording, and I still feel like I need to do some more research beforehand. So before I'm ready to do that, I just wanted to record something, but since question 3 is all I have left, I needed to move on. So I wanted to get back to me news for me. It's just a play on words where it's Maine news for Mainers, for me, you know. So I have some heavy topics today. It's about the housing crisis. I'll read the articles to begin with, the headlines of the articles, and then we can dig into each of them. They are actually all Bangor Daily News, and that's not because I just subscribe to them. It's because that most of the times, at least with Newsbreak, they publish to Newsbreak, the app that I use constantly to find news. They use that frequently, but then also they are, in my opinion, some of the state's most relevant publishers. So I will be getting some physical prints here soon, and I look forward to just kind of looking through the newspaper and reading it with you guys, because I think that's kind of an old-fashioned and fun kind of thing to do, but also it keeps you very informed with what's going on. So to dig into the headlines, again, they're all from Bangor Daily News. 261 students are homeless in Lewiston. To juxtaposition that, Maine gears up to welcome double the number of refugees in 2024. And then, to also bring it back to Mainers, why Maine's housing crisis could get even worse for seniors. So while the world is going to chaos, I understand that there's a lot going on. But Janet Mills, our governor, has a single job, and it is to protect her constituents. Us. Mainers. We elected her because we deserve to be protected. But we have 261 students homeless in Lewiston. Like, my skin is actually crawling reporting this. We cannot help anyone else while we have homeless students, while we have homeless primary education students. I understand refugees need help. I understand that there's a lot going on in their own country. Where are Mainers supposed to go when it becomes untenable to live here? Are we supposed to become refugees to Africa? Or should every community be trying to figure out solutions for their own problems? And this is a call to action for every single individual across the globe. If you see something that needs to be cleaned, fucking clean it. Don't wait for someone else in the union or someone else to come down the line and do that duty. Just do it. I mean, basic common humanity. And I need to take a break because the ballot in November has worked me up. There's so much on the line, and there's so much political fog just obfuscating everything in front of us. And one of the most important things to me is that 261 students are homeless just a few dozens of miles from me, and from you, if you're in Maine watching this. I mean, can you go to sleep knowing a 6th or 7th grader is homeless? I mean, they could be younger, they could be in high school. They are not 18 yet. So I'll just read the article because this is yeah. So Bangor Daily News again. It's by their editorial team. The homelessness crisis continues to affect hundreds of people across the state, including school children. In Lewiston, one school employee said the problem is getting worse. We have one shelter for youth that is on a wait list, said Jamie Cowett, a resource coordinator at Lewiston Schools. So we have youth that are in tent cities, couch surfing, living outside. There are 261 homeless students enrolled in the Lewiston School District, according to Cowett, who said that the highest number she's seen in her 16 years working for Lewiston Schools. Cowett operates the Store Next Door, a program specifically for unhoused Lewiston students. It provides support services as well as school supplies, clothing, and more. But at a city council meeting on Tuesday, Cowett said resources for unhoused youth in Lewiston are running dry and is asking city leaders to do more. I know that homelessness is a huge problem, Cowett said, addressing the council, but I also want you to think that we're not just thinking about adults. We have a lot of children on our streets, and winter is coming. Mayor Carol Sheeleen said the city is Carl Sheeleen said the city is working on winter resources, but did not share a specific plan. We're looking at a number of scenarios, Sheeleen said, but I have full faith that we're going to be able to put something together before the winter turns much colder. At Tuesday's council meeting, Lewiston City Administrator said the city has submitted 2 funding requests for winter shelter to Maine Housing. One request is to add about 25 beds to the Lewiston Youth Shelter, New Beginnings. The other funding request is to operate a 50-bed overnight warming shelter. The city administrator expects to hear about the grant money next week. We're talking about children. 25, 50, I mean, that's 75. We have 261 children. I don't care if they're 17 and a half. If they turned 18 yesterday, they're still children. This is coming from an uncle of 13 times. I've been an uncle since I was 10 years old. This is unfathomable. Janet Mills, Honorable Governor Janet Mills, this is a stain on your record. I don't care about the climate. I don't care about how much you do for reducing carbon emissions. I don't care what you do for overseas political opposition. I don't care. If you're not taking care of our children and our seniors who work their fucking asses off to get where they're at, to now live in poverty and be worried every day when they spent their lives doing just that in hopes that when they got to this point they would be able to relax. Honorable Governor Janet Mills, you're getting to that age. What is it going to come to? How does it come to you being put in the same exact situation to make amendments and change? Or are you actually going to look at things from us, Mainers, from our perspective, and you're going to change your ways? Because right now it seems like you are bought out by corporations and by the highest bidder. To be blunt yet respectful, you seem like a high-end escort, just out for the highest, most profitable bidder. And we, the people, are not sluts. We do not give our bodies for nothing. We want respect, and we want human decency. If we are not given that, you best believe that kind of rhetoric will not be voted in again. So anyone following in the path of that, just remember where your predecessors stepped and how poorly it went for them. Moving on, we're going to, again, Bangor Daily News. Maine gears up to welcome double the number of refugees in 2024. 840 refugees are expected to come to Maine in the fiscal year 2024, according to Office of Maine Refugee Services. That's double the number from 2023, when the state received almost 420 refugees. Refugee service groups say they're scrambling to prepare as best they can. Rilwin Osmar, the executive director of Maine Immigrant and Refugee Services in Lewiston, says this is what his group is all about: welcoming refugees with open arms. We're prepared to welcome new refugees into our state, Osmond said. 3 resettlement groups are splitting the incoming refugees. Catholic Charities of Maine in Portland will take about 500. The Jewish Community Alliance in Portland will take about 140. Osmond said Maine Immigrant and Refugee Service will get around 200 refugees. It's not going to be easy, Bonnie Titcomb Lewis, Maine Immigrant and Refugee Service Director of Housing, said. We have families of 8, families of 9. With more refugees, they'll need more housing, she said. The organization is scrambling to connect with more landlords, but if they don't have enough housing available, Titcomb Lewis said refugees will be put in hotels. Every night that you have a family in a hotel, we have to be accountable for that cost, Titcomb Lewis said. Titcomb Lewis said the organization will need more volunteers to help pick up refugees from the airport and connect them with housing and jobs. They'll also need more donations to help refugees furnish apartments. There's a list we have to go by. We can't leave out that fire extinguisher. You have to have smoke alarms. You have to have clean bedding and new pillows, Titcomb Lewis said. Refugee service organizations say Maine is getting among the smallest number of refugees compared to other states, though Maine has also one of the smallest state populations. I am disgusted right now. If you are a refugee to the state of Maine, welcome. Get ready to work your ass off. And if you think that's not what the locals do, you are very mistaken, and you should move to another state. Because if you're coming here, you are agreeing to work your ass off. If you're homeless when you're a child, what else is expected from you than to work your ass off? No one comes here and gets a free write-off. No one comes here and says, I'm escaping from something worse and I want to sit at home. No. No, when we have children that are homeless, we have no right dabbling in other countries. I'm trying to offer this as unbiased as possible. However, the news is so slanted in one direction, and I have an upcoming report on that. I've been holding off on it. It's going to take more research, and I've been heavily delving into the Maine elections. Unfortunately, it also involves the elections, so if I hold off too long, It's a double-edged sword. So that's coming. But in the meantime, just know that this is one of the reasons that I am heavily getting videos out now, is because the opposition is so strong. And I'm an underdog kind of person, kind of man. I mean, who would have thought, like, Britain versus America? America. I know I need to work out. You don't need to point it out. I know. So we're going to finish up with one more article, also by Bangor Daily News, not sponsored. Although, why Maine's housing crisis could get even worse for seniors, by Zara Norman. Came out 6 days ago as of recording, which is on the 23rd. So it came out the 17th. Orono, Maine. As calls mount for Maine to jumpstart housing production, advocates worry that only a fraction of the new units will be accessible to seniors and Mainers with disabilities. State officials set aggressive goals for housing production in a landmark study published this month, calling for at least 76,000 new homes by 2030. There has been lots of discussion about the need and Maine's wide affordability crisis, but less among policymakers on how to ensure enough are accessible. Only 5% of new multifamily housing construction in Maine has to meet accessibility standards that would accommodate those with mobility issues, according to federal data. That could be a bigger problem as the nation's oldest state ages further in the coming years. I'm not sure that conversation is happening enough, Noel Bonham, director of the Maine AARP, said at a senior housing conference at the University of Maine in Orono on Monday. Housing remains a really significant, huge issue for us. Maine has the oldest population in the nation, with a median age of 44.8 years. The senior population here will rise by more than a third by 2030, just shy of 400,000 people. According to projections from the state economist, additionally, the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention say 12% of Maine adults have a mobility disability. For housing developments in apartments subsidized by Maine housing programs, the number of accessible units as a percentage of total units is far greater than the 5% statewide, said Scott Thistle, a spokesperson for the agency. But for the single-family home construction, there is not typically an accessibility requirement. Half of senior households will be single occupancy by 2035. Representative Maggie O'Neill, Democrat of Saco, noted at the Monday conference. It will largely fall to local planning boards to make sure developers proposing new housing construction make provisions for those with mobility issues, accessibility advocates said. Others wondered if state legislature could mandate more accessibility housings be developed, although that could conflict with the state's long history of local control over housing. We need something to force developers to change, or incentives, because right now they're just doing the minimum, Jill Johanning, a Portland-based architect with Alpha One, said. If we have a 20-unit development, one apartment will be accessible, maybe two. Accessibility standards include wheelchair, cane, walker, or stroller access to all parts of the building and to appliances like light switches, thermostats, or cabinets, and reinforcements in bathroom walls for grab bars and handrails, among other state-sanctioned requirements. Developers usually don't build more than 5% of their units as accessible to those with mobility issues, Johanning said. A lack of creativity and increased costs are behind that, but advocates said that the idea is misplaced. To make a home accessible is a 0 to 5% increase in construction cost. It is far greater than that to retrofit that unit after the fact, Jean Sanders, the director of Age-Friendly Saco, said. When designing a housing project, Sanders said choices like adding a first-floor bathroom, installing lavers for door handles instead of knobs, or choosing to construct a sloped walkway instead of steep steps can cost pennies. Keeping those with mobility issues in mind from conception might require creative thinking, but will save money in the long term and prevent those living on a fixed income from trying to come up with it in decades' time. Sanders said she has heard of Saco residents who have to call the fire department every time they come in or out of their house because they can't afford a ramp. We're pushing for a lot of new development. We've got to make sure it's right, Johanning said. This is a complex issue, I agree. This is where our focus should be. Seniors who have spent their lives working for our state, paying into Social Security and Medicare, they deserve to have their lives taken care of now. They paid into it believing just that. We should also take care of our children. Children that did not ask or beg to come into this life, yet are here regardless. We cannot have them homeless and on the streets. If you're an immigrant, I understand the circumstances you're coming from are hard. But unfortunately, if you come over to here at this point, it is only adding to our crisis and it is only making things worse. I understand that a lot of immigrants want to work. And if you speak fluent English, I implore you to become tax-paying citizens. You are welcome. But with an inundation of elderly people and families of 8 or 9, and we're struggling to take care of two siblings that are homeless, I can't rectify that in my mind. So I'm posting this video to bring awareness to the situations. Of course, as always, I will leave the links down below of the articles that I read. And this November, keep in mind how you vote. How you vote is important for the future. It's important for the future for our children that are homeless, and it is important for our seniors that are homeless already or very easily could be. Children, veterans, seniors, they deserve to be taken care of. So keep in mind, voting is so important. I really feel chosen. That's why I've been posting these videos. I feel magnetized, called to do this. I hope you take something away from this. If you have, please subscribe. And if you haven't, either way, I hope to see you back in a future video. Have a great night.